All right, guys, what's going on? Jared Atkins coming to you here. A little bit of Weeknight Chronicles solo edition. Saturday night, December 10th, all by my lonesome, about 11:30 in the evening. And what else am I going to do, right? So let's get into it. Let's cover some sports news. And I want to start by talking about Hall of Famer Larry Brown. Did you guys hear about Larry? So Larry is a special advisor for Memphis basketball. No, not the Grizzlies. Memphis college ball. Whose head coach, and you got to remember something, I was born in 1987, and I've said it on social media. I say it here, the 90s was the best decade in world history. I'm a 90s kid. 90s basketball gets me excited. Penny Hardaway, baby! Penny Hardaway is the head coach at Memphis. Hall of Famer Larry Brown was a special advisor to the men's team. And he has stepped down from his role over health concerns. Now, Penny Hardaway came out and issued a statement where he said, quote, "We wish Coach Brown a speedy recovery. Having Coach Brown as part of our program over the last 18 months was very impactful on our student athletes and me as a coach. And we all hope the best for him moving forward." Now, Brown took a leave of absence last month or 2 months ago from the team. Now, what's interesting is Brown's 82 years of age, and he's the only coach he's the only coach to win both the NCAA championship back in the day, Kansas in 1988, and he won one as the head coach. Can anybody tell me? 2004 Detroit Pistons, Chauncey Billups. Now, he coached Penny back during the New York Knicks days, and then he joined Penny Hardaway's staff in July of last year as an assistant and was named a special assistant to Hardaway before this season. Of course, Larry's got an impeccable resume. You know, he won 1,098 NBA games, reached the playoffs 18 times over 26 seasons in the NBA. That's pretty fucking impressive. Now, his NCAA title with Kansas was among 3 Final Four appearances his teams made in the 80s, including one with, yes, UCLA. And, of course, he was inducted into the Naismith Hall of Fame back in 2002. So, I haven't done any more research on this. I do vaguely remember seeing something about Coach Brown being ill. So, of course, you know, thoughts and prayers go to him for a speedy recovery. And I got a feeling this could be the last time we ever see Coach Brown do anything in the public eye with basketball. I mean, the gentleman's 82 years old. So all the best well wishes go to Coach Brown. Okay, since Kurt's not here to cancel me from doing this, we're going to touch a little bit on football. You know, the other football. The one that we don't talk on this show. Soccer. The same sport that I constantly shit on all the time. But I do want to mention something. Listen, I'm not a big soccer guy. So, you know, I'll always take criticism or feedback about soccer. But I want to cover this because of how important it is. In my mind, at 35 years of age, there's several GOATs that you could put in soccer contention. If you want to do a Mount Rushmore of men's soccer, I think at least 3 of the names that could potentially go on the Mount Rushmore should, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi. You can make a case for Neymar. Of course, everybody knows Pele. But I want to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo. What little bit I know about soccer, and trust me, if you put up all the times I've watched soccer on TV together, you could put it up. It might be a combined, 3 or 4 hours altogether. But if I had to pick a player, if there was a gun held in my head, say, hey, pick your favorite soccer player, it would probably be Cristiano Ronaldo. The World Cup's going on right now. It's a big thing to apparently everybody but me and Kurt because we're not soccer fans. But Ronaldo, Portugal got beat today at the hands of Morocco. I believe it was where are we at right now, all you soccer fans? Where are we at? Semifinals, quarterfinals? Where the fuck are we at? Whatever one it was, Portugal got beat by Morocco, and as Ronaldo was leaving off the field, you could see tears coming down his face. Ronaldo is, to my knowledge, is only a couple years older than me, so he's about 37, 38. This is probably, I would say, because this event's like the Olympics, only happens once every 4, 5, 6 years, right? The Olympics is every 4, ain't the World Cup every 4, 5, 6 years. Potentially, you're looking at this possibly being his last chance to basically win what I consider the equivalent of the Super Bowl for professional soccer. That's what the World Cup is, right? And if that's the case, it's a sad ending. There's some stats I dug up on this. This was his 196th international appearance. That's tied for most in the men's game. He's the all-time leading scorer in international soccer with 118 goals. What's interesting, though, is that he left the field in tears. He didn't say anything about his future, but at 37 years of age, it's only happening once. I mean, you guys out there that follow soccer might know, how often do you get 40-year-old guys playing soccer? I mean, is it a big thing? Does that happen? You get 40-year-olds playing football. You get 40-year-olds playing basketball. Do you get mid-40-year-olds playing soccer? Irregardless of how this ends and how this goes down, whether he retires in the next few years or after this year, whatever. So right here it says it'll be in 2026. So 4 years, the World Cup will be in North America this time. It's likely going to be without him. So either way, Cristiano Ronaldo, congratulations on a storied career. And like I said, I don't know near enough about soccer, but I tell you what, if I was building a Mount Rushmore of soccer, and here's where I always cheat. If you guys have followed the show, when we do Mount Rushmores, I always cheat because I list the 4 faces and then I throw a 5th one in there just to be an ass, and it irritates the piss out of Kurt. I say, yeah, well, okay, these 4 guys go on Mount Rushmore, but this guy's the mountain you're carving out of. Pele's the mountain you're carving soccer's Mount Rushmore out of. See, there's my cheat. So there's my 5th guy. So Pele's the mountain you carve soccer's Mount Rushmore out of. So then you get 4 faces to put up there, and Ronaldo's one of them. Obviously Messi. And then you could make the case for a lot of guys. I kind of like Neymar. Maybe he doesn't have quite the... I don't know. Probably sounding stupid to all you soccer fans, but anyways, I just had to put that in there just out of respect because he is one of the GOATs. And whether he plays soccer again, whether he's at the next World Cup, who knows? But hats off to Cristiano Ronaldo. So, throughout this year on the show, whether Kurt has been with me for Weeknight Chronicle episodes, or I've done single shots myself, or I've done laundromat listenings, or whatever I've done, I have always used this very small platform that we have that is growing monthly Thanks to all the listeners out there. And once again, shout out to our friends at After Two Beers Podcast. I will shout them out until the day there is no more podcast. We grew exponentially over the last 5 months, 6 months because of them. And I'm very much looking forward to our next collaboration coming up in January or February. But I've always used this small platform to put out bad, sad news that has a twist with it, where I basically call out the people responsible for these bad, sad things. Okay, so what I'm getting at is 3 days ago, I thought about doing an episode, and I got on here and I just kind of checked the news. And like the format for these Weeknight Chronicle episodes are always the same. I check ESPN, I check Bleacher Report, and a couple other places. I kind of dig through and sift and see if there's anything I really feel like talking about, or I let it go. Well, I came across this story 2 or 3 days ago. I seen the headline, and I didn't think nothing about it. And then tonight, as I was just sitting here at the computer for the last hour before I decided to record, I was like, you know what, I want to talk about this. And I want to talk about a very abusive coach who some parents are holding responsible for their son's suicide. And as you guys all well know, suicide's a very hot button issue with me. February 4th will be 4 years since my attempt. So I take mental health really fucking seriously. And I've got a small platform. And if you don't want to hear this part of the episode, then, you know, I guess mute it or skip it. But I want to talk about this. So there's a college student named Brian Lilly Jr. He went to the University of California at San Diego, and he was a rower. Yes, college rower. You know, the water, the boat, the row. He committed suicide. I guess it was New Year's Day of 2020. Looking at it, I don't have the exact date here unless I scroll down. But his good friend, one of his best friends, a gentleman named Parker Kinney, has opened up about this as well. I guess the day before this gentleman died, they talked about, you know, their coach and their time. I guess what's going on is this couple named Brenda and Brian Lilly have filed a wrongful death suit against former University of California at San Diego rowing coach Jeff Bond. They followed a wrongful death suit against him and Cal San Diego, and the lawsuit alleges that their coach mistreated their son so largely because he challenged the coach's decision to allow a rower to remain on this team at the time at Cal San Diego, despite severe allegations of sexual misconduct against their son. Now, they're adamant in this lawsuit that their son, Brian Lilly Jr., was verbally abused by the head coach, which led to his suicide. Excuse me, it was January 2021, so almost 2 years ago. The friend that I mentioned earlier, Parker Kinney, he said he witnessed the abuse multiple times. Parker Kinney said, a quote, "I feel like they were trying to sweep this whole sexual assault allegation under the rug, and a decent amount of kids had legitimate concerns about this is pretty messed up. A lot of kids didn't speak out about it. Brian spoke up about it, so Coach Bond retaliated against him. Brian's main concern was that this would harm the integrity of the rowing team, which I agreed with." Now, the defense team for Coach Bond now, who coached at San Diego until this past January of this year, filed a motion to dismiss the case. The defense said that Coach Bond hadn't seen Brian Lilly Jr. for 9 months prior to his suicide, and the coach reached out during the pandemic lockdown to inquire whether Lilly would return to school in San Diego from the East Coast. Now, several of Bond's former rowers from Cal, Penn, and Cal San Diego also reached out to the press in support of their coach. They said, I absolutely loved his style of coaching, said one student. It was a great fit for young college athletes. Now, the Lilly family attorney, Nicholas Lewis, said Brian Lilly Jr. remained involved with the rowing program from home by attending regular video calls. Cal San Diego has declined to comment through a spokesman, citing the pending litigation. And then the school offered up no details when Bond stepped down as head coach or left as head coach in January. The Lilly family said they are determined to save others from this kind of treatment. Brian Lilly said, this whole thing right now is to give my son a voice. He was the ultimate underdog. He was a hero. Now, what's interesting is the family said their son has never had a history of mental illness prior to rowing for University of California, San Diego. They said their teen briefly underwent inpatient treatment in the summer of 2020 during the height of COVID after experiencing psychotic and schizophrenic symptoms such as paranoia and disorganized thoughts before he stabled and got into therapy. Coach Bond's defense, however, is that they argue the coach never knew of Brian Lilly Jr.'s emotional state. Now, Brian Lilly Sr. Recently recalled how his son had pushed himself so hard during competitions and training that in February of 2020, he pushed himself so hard that he vomited multiple times in practice, and that Coach Bond told him that only pussies throw up. Only pussies give up. Only pussies quit. And only pussies are weak. Okay, we'll get to that in a second, because I know you're thinking about football here in a minute. We'll get to that in a second. Now, some rowers who competed for Coach Bond have shared similar experiences, describing in which Coach Bond would consistently use offensive and vulgar language, other put-downs, homophobic slurs. Kenny said, the friend of Brian Lilly Jr., said that in March 2020, Coach yelled at him on the water for using inflammatory language in support of his friendship of Lilly, something along the lines of, it was rumored queer, or something like that. Kenny said, I was paralyzed with fear. I was 18 years old. I called my dad. I was losing respect for the program. And that's about it. This is an ongoing lawsuit. And here's the point I'm going to make. Kurt and I always talk about in a lot of episodes about how times have changed these days and the world's gone soft and and we miss the old days. And that's true to an extent. But if you're verbally harassing your student athlete, if you were verbally harassing a 18, 19, 20-year-old college kid who is an adult, full-grown adult, away at school at university, but you're supposed to be still a figure he can trust, you're a piece of shit. And I get it. I love old school football where the coach is like, you got a broken leg, get your ass out there on the field, rub some dirt. Like, I get it. I like that hard-nosed style of shit. But there's a time when to back it off, and there's a time when to keep doing it. If you're using homophobic slurs in 2020, 2021, 2022, if you're calling two teammates gay and queer because they have a bond together and one knows the other one might have some mental health going on, get the fuck over yourself. This dude, I would love for Coach Bond to hear this tape. He never will. But I would love you're a fucking piece of shit, and I would say that to your face. You have absolutely no job being near professional athletes, collegiate athletes, high school athletes, junior high athletes, nothing. You should never coach again. In fact, you should be held accountable somehow, and you should go on speaking engagements telling people how much of a piece of shit you are and how to better maybe I'm going off on a tangent here, I don't know. But, the headline jumped out at me 3 days ago. I didn't really think much of it. Tonight I clicked on it and read it, and I'm like, wow. So, as always, anything that I find particularly interesting, newsworthy, especially if the word lawsuit's involved, I always kind of keep my eyes on it. And Kurt loves callbacks. So if I get any more information on this, I'll pass along. But the bottom line, a young man is dead by his own hand at suicide, and that's tragic. But there's some clear indicators that potentially his coach is the reason for that, and that's a fucking problem with me. So I got a little bit of boxing. I don't have a lot of boxing tonight. I know I missed my recap on Tyson Fury getting back into the ring a couple weeks ago, and, I missed it. Check the archives. There was some episodes, heavy, the one entitled Boxing in September, and then the one, of course, in August, which was the Rage on the Red Sea. We had the big 5, and then I talked about 4 additional fights before the end of the year that could lead to a big 8. Anyways, check that. It's good content there. But I want to point this out just because of Celebrity Deathmatch and boxing. Hall of Fame referee Mills Lane passed away at his Reno, Nevada home Tuesday morning. He was 85 years old. Of course, he refereed hundreds of championship bouts. He refereed other bouts. Of course, the 2 things he's most known for would be, fun fact, by the way, before I get to this, he appeared in November of 98, I think, or maybe 99 on WWE television. Stone Cold Steve. Dirty Curdy, you missed it. I got my pro wrestling reference in, bro. Check it out. Fun fact. Google Mills Lane, WWF, Stone Cold Steve Austin, championship match, Vince McMahon, the works. It was November 98, January, February 99, somewhere in that ballpark. October, maybe September 98. I'm in the ballpark. Somewhere in that 6-month period. But, of course, he's most known for Celebrity Deathmatch and, of course, the Bite Fight. Tyson Holyfield. Was that Tyson Holyfield 1 or Tyson Holyfield 2? I don't remember what that is. But anyway, of course, Mills Lane. Let's get it on. You can hear it right now in your mind. I know you can. I know you can hear it now that I said it. You're hearing it. I want a good, clean fight. Let's get it on. Yeah, what a great ambassador for the sport of professional boxing. What a great ambassador for combat sports. It's this is the guy I think that'll be missed by combat sports. Great ambassador. He took the sport seriously. He had a no-nonsense attitude. He was a former United States Marine. I don't know if anybody knew that. Semper Fi. He was a boxer. He was a welterweight. He won 10 consecutive fights, and in 1967, got tongue-tied. Lane retired from boxing with a professional fight record of 10-1. He graduated from University of Utah Law School in the 70s. And if you go back and look, he's been involved in some big moments in boxing history. Tyson's comeback win over Peter McNeely. Julius Caesar Chavez's rematch with Meldrick Taylor. That was a hell of a fight too, by the way. Chavez and Taylor. In 98, there was the Bernard Hopkins fight with Robert Allen, the no contest, ejected from the ring. Tommy Hearn's first round knockout of Jay Schneider. And then, of course, the TV show, Judge Mills Lane, which ran several years. Just a great ambassador for the sport of boxing, a guy that will greatly be missed. It's not often you think of a referee being synonymous with a sport, but boxing, anyways, I'm just rambling here, but rest in peace, Mills Lane. All right, Puss. I don't know if you're listening to this, my co-host or not. He says checks out episodes, but he's going to have some trouble in the NL West. And I want to talk about this. I know I shit all over my Phillies, and they made the World Series. They beat, to get the World Series in the NLCS, they beat San Diego. And the point I'm making here is apparently, and some of you are guilty of this too, we've been sleeping on the Padres, and man, they're scary because, free agency and everything's going on. They've got, Bogarts from Boston, right? He come from Boston, didn't he? Bogarts is that, like the Padres roster, okay? So now this could be a scary good team for a while because you've got Fernando Tatis Jr., who I'm going to come right out and say is probably one of my top 5 players in baseball right now, favorite guys. You got Fernando Tatis Jr., you've got Xander Bogaerts, you've got Manny Machado, and you've got Juan Soto. Like, talk about some hot bats. Now, San Diego, to the best of my knowledge, and I'm going to look it up, actually. I'm going to look it up. I think they've only made 2 World Series appearances, maybe 3. San Diego has been to the World Series twice, in 1984 and 1998. 98 was the year they got spanked by the Yankees. And you know what else is scary? Is these motherfuckers made a push for Aaron Judge and didn't get him. And they also made a push for Trey Turner, and Trey Turner got signed by my Phillies, by the way. I just want to point this out. Like, if they can put it all together, if they can put this all together, this might be one of the teams to watch over the next few seasons. Like, they already made the NLCS last season. And I get a sneaky feeling, I could be wrong, I get a sneaky feeling that's not an outlier. So there could potentially be some trouble in San Diego. And, the city's loving it. That's the only professional sports franchise left there now, isn't it? So, I don't know, man. It'd be something to watch. I love talking baseball with Puss. And just look at the money they're giving here. Manny Machado signed a $300 million contract in 2019. Fernando Tatis got a $340 million, 14-year deal last year. And now this deal with Bogarts. And, man, this team's going to be scary good. Scary good. So I got a little PeePee spanking being handed down by the ATP. Don't know what ATP is. That's the Association of Tennis Professionals. News coming out of London, and I love PeePee spankings when people get in trouble. I just think it's fun. And this one's funny because this is literally going to take me like 30 seconds to talk about, but I'm going to drag it out for a few extra 30-seconders because it's so funny. Okay, so here, I'm going to call this Dingbat 1 and Dingbat 2. These are 2 low-ranking on the totem pole players that we're probably never going to see the top 100, top 50 in the world. But anyway, so we got news coming out of London that broke about yesterday or the day before. So there's 2 low-ranked French tennis players who have now been banned from the sport for life because they were found guilty of match fixing. Let's see if I can pronounce these names right. Jules Okola, a 25-year-old with a career best ATP ranking of 338th in the world, and Mick Lescure, a 29-year-old with a top ranking of 487th overall in the world, both admitted to multiple charges, according to the ITIA, which stands for the International Tennis Integrity Agency. And then the ATP spanked their PeePees hard. Neither player is allowed to compete or attend. They can't even go watch tennis. Like, you disgrace us enough, you can't even fucking come and watch us. So, Okola was found guilty of 7 match fixing charges. and fined $15,000 on his permanent suspension. Now, the other guy, Dingbat 2, Mick Lascure, was found guilty of 8 charges, and they fined him over $40,000. Now, the punishments come because both players were involved in law enforcement investigations in France and Belgium. So, here's the deal. You guys were never going to be big stars, probably. I'm assuming, because I've never heard of either one of you motherfuckers, just like I'm sure everyone listening to this podcast has never heard of these guys. But you screwed yourself out of a chance to make a living playing tennis and making a little bit of money. You know, not millions of dollars, but, you know, a couple $1,000 a weekend or a week or whatever you're doing. Like, you didn't fuck yourself out of all opportunities, and I just think it's funny. Don't fix. Don't cheat. Don't skim the game. I don't give a fuck if it's hockey, if it's UFC, if it's whatever it is. Don't fix the game. Don't give people a reason to distrust the sport. I think it's hilarious. I am happy to see this happen. In the words of Jim Cornette, another pro wrestling reference, thank you, fuck you, bye. So, gonna talk a little horse racing. I've really been getting into this. I try to check out any horse racing news every episode because I'm kind of really getting into this. And long and behold, some news coming out of New York City in the last couple of days. So let's get into this. This is a fucked up story. A guy by the name of Jason Service, he's a trainer. Service. Servivis. Service. His horse, Maximum Security, was a 3-year-old champion in 2019. Service pled guilty Friday to federal charges involving a widespread scheme involving multiple people in drugging horses. Yes, you heard that correct. Drugging the horses. So Service he's a 65-year-old trainer based in New Jersey. He's looking at 4 years in the federal pen, where he is sentenced in May in the U.S. District Court in Manhattan. He was the last defendant to face charges in this scheme, and there is now 23 of 31 individuals being investigated for this who have pled guilty. Service pled guilty in connection with his role in the distribution of misbranded and adulterated drugs intended for uses on the horses in his stable. Now, Damian Williams, a U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, said in a statement that Service's conduct represents corruption at the highest level of the horse racing industry. As a licensed racehorse trainer, Service was bound to protect the horses under his care and to comply with the racing rules designed to ensure the safety and well-being of the horses and protect the integrity of the sport. Now, Service's attorney, a lady named Rita Glavin, she was reached for comment and declined to respond. Now, Service was charged 2 years ago, back in 2020, after a wide-ranging investigation into doping ongoing in the horse racing industry. The powers that be in the horse racing industry suspended his trainer's license. Now, his horse, Maximum Security, won the Kentucky Derby in 2019, but was disqualified for interference during the running of the race. We all remember that. We all seen the clip of it. The colt would end up finishing first in the $10 million Saudi Cup. There you go. There's that Saudi blood money. I got to work one of those in every episode. Now, his horse would finish first, like I said, get disqualified, and then he would finish of the Derby, and then he would finish first in the Saudi Cup before Service was arrested in March 2020. Now, the Saudi officials later withheld the winner's share of the purse, citing Service's arrest and indictment. Now, Kentucky Derby winning trainer Graham Motion tweeted the other day, "I don't take any solace in other people's misery. actually quite the opposite. I feel some empathy for them. But the reality is that those of us who were beaten by Jason Service's horses have little to show for it other than losing money, owners, and horses due to his success. Now, another New Jersey-based trainer, Jorge Navarro, is currently serving a 5-year rip for pleading guilty last year. 11 of the defendants who have been charged and pled guilty were trainers, and 7 were actual veterinarians. Now, Service is the brother of John Service, who trained Smarty Jones, who would win the 2004 Kentucky Derby and the Preakness before losing the Triple Crown bid at Belmont. So here we go again. I love PeePee Spankings. That might be the title of this episode. Weeknight Chronicles number whatever. PeePee Spankings. That might be what it be, because we're getting PeePee Spankings in horse racing. We're getting PeePee Spankings in tennis. So we just, and a PeePee spanking that I verbally issued to the head coach of, or the former head coach of UCal San Diego's rowing team. So, man, this just goes back to what I'm talking about, dude. Like, you got to protect the integrity of your sport. When shit like this goes on, it makes people look at your sport with a cross eye and in bad light. Like, not only are you fucking yourself when you get caught, but you're fucking other people. Because maybe ratings are going to tank. If ratings tank, people aren't going to buy tickets. If people aren't buying tickets to come to the show, they're not, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this affects more than just, you know. That's why I love sports when youth are involved, because it's still real then. It's not all about corruption. It's not all about money. It's just, anyways. I'm on one tonight, I guess. So we're going to touch on some, like, today, like, just within the last couple of hours, recent news. And it's also going to be a callback to one of the full-length current events episodes Kurt and I did not that long ago. Raul Rosas Jr., the kid who just turned 18 a couple months ago. This was the dude that was wowing judges and wowing everybody and impressed Dana White on the Dana White Contender Series. He just turned 18 a couple months ago. He had his first official UFC fight tonight at UFC 282. He fought in the prelims against Jay Perrin and got a first-round submission in the bantamweight division. You know, this is the kid I talked about. He was born in Mexico, raised in New Mexico and Cali. He signed off on Dana White's Contender Series when he was 17. Wowed everybody, won everybody, beat everybody. Dana White gave him the contract. And then tonight in his first official fight, he's 2 months past 18. And he stepped into the octagon on the prelims, bantamweight, 135-pound division. Gotta love bantamweight fights. Man, I think back to about 10, 11 years ago. Uriah Faber, the California kid, Uriah Faber, and Dominic Cruz. 135-pound bantamweights. God almighty, I miss. UFC I haven't watched a lot of in the last few years, but man, a decade ago it was hot. And they are on this, 15-plus year run of just, they knocked boxing down to third. Pro wrestling, MMA, boxing. But anyways, Rojas just 2 minutes and 44 seconds for round one, rear naked choke. Now, if you've seen any highlights of this kid, or you haven't, he's a wrestler. That's what I call him, a wrestler. He likes to get the fight on the mat. And slapped in a rear naked choke. Perrin tapped out. And congratulations to this kid. He's got a big future for him. No doubt about it. And I'd like to see where he goes from there. He might own this bantamweight division. A little bit of feel-good story here. Maybe even two of them, depending on how I segue this. But the Nike Hoop Summit is making some news here by adding a women's game for the first time ever. This is the tournament that's It'll be held in Portland in April. USA Basketball announced that this is the event that you hear about that goes on every April, May-ish, March-ish. This is what pits top U.S. high school players against a team of international players from ages like 19 and under. And USA Basketball announced yesterday that they were going to add a women's game. USA Basketball CEO Jim Tooley said, quote, "The Nike Hoop Summit has been a great event to showcase the USA's top talent against the world's top talent on an annual basis. With the addition of a women's game for the first time in history, there is another opportunity for our top women's players to compete on an international stage," which I think is just fucking fantastic. We're all about this Me Too, this women's movement in the last few years and equality. And when it comes to sports, I just think this is absolutely phenomenal. Now, the summit goes back to my days, to my youth in the mid-'90s. And there's been some number one overall picks that's played in this summit. You know, Zion, Cade Cunningham, DeAndre Ayton, who I think is still one of the best big men in the league. Ben Simmons has played there. Karl Anthony Towns, Wiggins, Anthony Bennett, who fucking flopped. AD was there. Kyrie was there. John Wall, Derrick Rose, Elton Brand. Kevin Garnett's been there. Dirk, Parker. My guy, Shane Battier. Love me some Shane Battier. Garnett, Durant, Kevin Love, Tatum, Bradley Beal, Tyler Hero. Now, the USA has won 16 of the 23 games played today. Expect USA Basketball to start releasing the names and formatting the rosters over the coming weeks. I know this isn't a lot of news wrapped in this, but I just think it's phenomenal that female high school athletes are getting a chance to do. Like, I just think this is great. That's awesome. I can't stress that enough. And then, of course, I guess we'll go ahead and segue into it. I'll touch on it just briefly, and that, of course, is the news about Brittany Griner. She's home. We try not to get political on this podcast. We've talked about Griner at length in several episodes, and even we talked about Griner at length in a full-length current events episode back in the summer, back in August, I believe it was. Check our archives. However you feel about her opinions on, you know, the national anthem and Black Lives Matter and taking a knee and all this shit, I could give a fuck less what your opinion is. I'm not going to say mine. I'm thankful we have an American home. But now, I don't know. Of course, social media is lit up in the last couple of days. They're like, well, if they're going to bring her home and this was a marijuana offense, then every marijuana offense in our country by our own government needs to be erased. And that's a whole nother issue with legislation and everything. I'm not going to get into it. She's home. She's reunited with her wife. And I still say to this day, whatever it was, 2011, I think it was 2012, national championship game, Baylor versus Notre Dame, Skylar Diggins versus Brittany Griner. Probably one of the top 10 basketball games I've watched. It was amazing. Congratulations to Brittany. I mean, like I said, however you feel about her, she was wrongfully incarcerated. It was a pissing contest between two countries. It was a political thing. She's home now, and that's great for her. We traded her for a fucking Russian arms dealer. And the memes, by the way, however you feel, if you don't have a sense of humor in this life, you can go fuck yourself. But the memes coming out of this prisoner swap are next level. I will say that. They are hilarious. I've seen them all. Like, this is the worst trade ever. My favorite meme out of this is the first time in history anybody has ever paid attention to a WNBA trade. I'm like, wow. But regardless how you feel, we did bring a professional athlete home that was wrongfully incarcerated. So that's good news. But one final thing I want to point out about this Brittany Griner issue, since we're on the subject of women's basketball, we're going to do a third segue here, kind of. The WNBA commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, basically came out after the announcement that Griner was released and coming home. She made the announcement that the WNBA will continue to support their players and their decisions on whether they want to play overseas or not, but they're gonna advise them on safety issues. So, in my mind, it's kind of like, hey, you want to go over and earn some extra cash playing overseas in Russia? Hey, that's fine. Maybe leave the marijuana at home. We all know about this whole women's equality thing in the last decade has really exploded, and rightfully it should. Women are vastly underpaid and underappreciated across this country, especially when it comes to professional sports. Women are vastly underpaid. A lot of these women don't make enough during the year. They really don't. That's why they're going overseas and playing in these other leagues and stuff during the WNBA offseason for extra money. And what happened with Brittany, it was a fucked up thing, but, she went over there point blank for more money. And they're going to continue to let the women do it. I guess they're just going to caution them a lot more on what not to do. And obviously, Griner's going to be used as an example from now on. So, but hey, the main segue, Griner's home. So I guess at the end of the day, that's all that matters, right? So, another part of my childhood or my teenage years could potentially be coming to an end, and that's the Kevin Harvick, NASCAR. He's been debating on whether 2023 is going to be his last year as a full-time driver. He was recently asked about it this past week. And he said that he'll know the answer before the season opener, which is the biggest race in NASCAR, the Daytona 500. How weird is that you basically have your sports Super Bowl as the first event of the year? Like, isn't that fucking weird? I've never understood that. When asked about it, though, Harvick said, I don't really have a clear answer right now. I think as we get to Daytona, I know 100% that we will have a direction because I'm not going to start the season without knowing that direction, just because of the fact that there's a lot of layers to unfold and really go through and evaluate. And so we'll see. I think it could go either way at this particular point. Now, Gene Haas, who co-owns Stewart Haas Racing with Tony Haas, said back in October that Harvick had indicated he didn't plan to drive after his contract expires at the end of the 2023 season. Now, Haas said that he wants Harvick to sign an extension and return to the team. Now, Harvick's no slouch. He won his only Cup title in his first year with Stewart Haas Racing. And for those of you that don't remember, he spent the first 13 years of his career with Richard Childress Racing. And 2023 will be now his 10th season with Stewart Haas. Harvick was the one that raced the number 29 GM Goodwrench Chevrolet. After Earnhardt passed away in the 2001 season, they took the number 3 off the car, put a number 29 on the car. Harvick stepped in to race that season for RCR and then would stay there for till 2011-ish, 12-ish. Now, Harvick's 47 years old. He's got 60 career Cup wins. That include a Daytona 500, a Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte, a Brickyard 400, and a Southern 500, which, Southern 500, that's Talladega or Darlington. Anyways, this past season, at the Michigan race. Harvick snapped a 65 race winless streak, which is the second longest drought of his career. But Harvick's kind of expanded his interests over the last decade. He's thoroughly invested in building the career of his 10-year-old son, Keelan, who's getting into racing. Now, back in my day, as a teenager and as a child, it was called the Busch Grand National Series. It's now called the Xfinity Cup. Harvick won the Xfinity Cup in 2001 and 2006. So his rookie year in 2001, he was racing Sundays for RCR and then racing the Xfinity Cup on Saturdays. So he's got 47 career Xfinity Cup wins. He's also got 14 Truck Series races victories. So I can't say nothing bad about Harvick. He's been a joy to watch over the years. He keeps things exciting. I love when drivers lose their temper, man. Good God. Tyson, I know we get excited about fights on skates. You're punching people and you've literally got knives on your feet, but I get excited when you see cars running around the track at 180 miles an hour and two guys get out and start throwing fists on the apron of the track. That gets me excited. I don't know any man that wouldn't enjoy watching that. So, regardless of whether Harvick comes back or 2023 is his final year or he makes a decision to go part-time racing only a handful of races a year, whatever the case, it's been a pleasure to watch him. He's earned whatever decision he's made. So, yeah. All right, so I guess the last thing we're going to touch on tonight is the shit show that was Monday Night Football with the Saints and the Buccaneers and these $500,000 fines that are coming down from the NFL. So, I don't know if you guys know this or not. Let me refresh your memory. I didn't watch Monday Night Football. What was I doing Monday night? Don't matter. I don't think I've watched but maybe only 3 or 4 games this season. I've been terrible this year. I've just been so busy with work and the podcasts, research and everything that I have not sat down and watched very many football games this year. But anyways, Monday Night Football, this past Monday night, Saints, Buccaneers, Monday Night Football. Several of the New Orleans Saints coaches and one of the nastiest defensive ends I've seen, Cameron Jordan, were fined more than $500,000 for faking an injury during the team's losing effort to Tampa Bay. So we're going to break this down the best we can here. So the Saints were fined $350,000. Saints head coach Dennis Allen was found $100,000. Co-defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen was found $50,000. And Cameron Jordan was fined $50,000 for their roles in the fourth quarter delay of game. All parties are going to obviously appeal their fines. And then, that's why I love social media, man. The things that get put out there. These athletes today, no fucks given. Cameron Jordan took on his Twitter account today and said most expensive fine to date from the NFL came yesterday. And then an hour later, he put out a second tweet. He said, the agent told me about it, and initially I was like, that's ridiculous, clearly aggravated something. Then he told me how much the fine was, and I've been irked since. So, now, obviously, the Saints have come out and denied the NFL's opinion that this was a fake injury. They released a statement this morning, or it might have been Friday evening, either one. The New Orleans Saints deny any allegations of purposely delaying the game on Monday evening. Defensive end Cameron Jordan felt foot pain following a third down play and sought obvious medical attention. He entered the blue medical tent and was examined by the medical staff, and following the examination, he was taped and able to finish the game. He had an MRI performed the following day once in New Orleans, and was confirmed that he suffered an acute midfoot sprain in his left foot. He has been at the facility each day receiving treatment for his injury he suffered on the play. The Saints will appeal the fines through the proper channels and believe the allegations will be proved incorrect. So now what this is, if you want to hop in your Google machine and see if you can find the footage of it or get on your NFL network, the Buccaneers were facing a 3rd and 17 in the fourth quarter. They were trailing 16-3. Jordan rushed Tom Brady and hit the ground as he tried to sack him. He quickly got back up, walked a few steps, and looked at the sideline, then went down on one knee, pointing to his leg as Brady stayed on the field on 4th down. Now, Brady initially looked like he was going to try to go for it on 4th down as Jordan left the field with athletic trainers and went to the sideline. But then they ended up punting the ball away. And then Jordan goes into the tent, but he did come back into the game, re-entering the game 4 plays later, or 4 plays into the Bucs' next offensive drive. Now, Jordan told ESPN that the injury in question was real and that he initially thought he could hobble off, but he took a knee when he felt like he couldn't push off with his left foot. He later said he felt okay after getting up and walking off. Now, Jordan continued on Twitter. He goes, "Are fines made by NFL open to public? I just feel like this should be public knowledge. Because some of the fines are silly, but this one, ridiculous. Anyways, and for what? A deliberate action to delay game before a team punts? NFL just wanted a new, I don't know what he said here. NFL just wanted a new Aquanaut or something. Definitely not me. So, anyways, I just think it's funny. Okay. Kurt and I have talked about this before off air about shenanigans. Do I think Cameron Jordan was faking this? No, because I hate Tom Brady. But seriously, do I think he was faking this? Absolutely not. I think he, was being smart about it. Do I think players do that? Oh, God, all the time. All the time. Why not fake an injury? It stops the game. Professional wrestling. Classic move. Even I know it's professional wrestling. It's scripted. Guys get the shit beat out of him. The heel, what does he do? He rolls out of the ring. Take a breather. What happens? Match kind of stops as the referee's, starting to count, and you get a 10 count to get you back. I mean, it's the same thing. Do I think it happens all the fucking time? Do I think that's what this was? Absolutely not. I think he was legitimately hurt or thought he was hurt. And the NFL, it's a money grab. That's what it is. It is a money grab and nothing else. So yeah, I just think it's funny, and I love it, dude. I love social media especially when things like this happen and these big time, high paid millionaire athletes take to social media to air their grievances. I fucking love that shit, man. Love it. We need more of that. We need more of these. It's comical to me. It's, All right, guys. And so last thing here, I'm just going to kind of talk about the podcast for a few minutes here, what's coming up and thing. I think I did this before recently. I can't remember if I did or not. We're in December now. We started this podcast a year and a half ago, May 2021. We didn't put out much content in December last year, and then January of this year, we didn't put out much content either. That's when I had COVID. And then we had some production problems. We might have had 1 or 2 episodes in January. Hopefully we do better this month and start next year. Some things that's going on. I'm going to start working on a new show open because I feel like that's something I want to change every at least once or twice a year, so at least every 6 months to a year. So I'm going to start working on a new show open. That also gives me a reason to just, fucking bog down in bed with my earbuds blasting and just dry hump Spotify all night till I find something cool that I want to rip an instrumental for a show open. Start working on a script. Like I said, in a perfect world, and if I had a little bit more high-end technology, I would start uploading multiple episodes into the studio file, and I would just rip different points of audio from the podcast and put it all together, nicely packaged as a show open. That takes a lot of work. That's a little bit more tech savvy than I am, so I just write scripts. I say something, Kurt says something. I say something, Kurt says something. So I'm going to start working on that. What's coming for the future episodes? I don't know what our December schedule is going to look like. I haven't talked with Kurt. Ideally, technically, we probably should have recorded together tonight, but I had other plans, and then they canceled, and I just spent all night at home watching true crime like a loser. I would like to roll out Killdozer before the end of the year. We've got 3 weeks left to go in the year. If we can get Killdozer done, that's great. Obviously, next year there's going to be a lot of World Series coverage. I'm shooting for at least 10 World Series episodes next year. And as I said, I've been working on this project I started on this year. I'm going year by year in 5 and 10 year intervals. So, of course, we might pick a random World Series, but of course, I'm going to try to do anniversary series throughout the whole year. So it'd be any World Series ending in a 3 or an 8. And then I think the very next episode we do, if we can bang out 2 more episodes this year, one will be Killdozer, and Kurt and I we looked at the overall product, and I've made the mention to Kurt via text. And that's the thing, I miss working with Kurt, man, because we were same department, man. We could talk about the podcast all day and talk sports, bounce ideas off. Now that I don't see him anymore, that doesn't happen as much. But I'd sent him a text the other day. I would really like to start covering, we need to cover some college basketball. We have 0 college basketball episodes in the can. So the other night I sat here at my computer at 3 o'clock in the morning here at my home office. And I was just looking at, great feel-good moments and feel-good college basketball stories throughout the years. And I found some good ones. Georgetown's dominance. Of course, I love the Fab Five. Ray Jackson, Jimmy King, Jalen Rose, Juwan Howard, and my boy Chris Webber. Fab Four, we looked at Jimmy V's, the 83 NC State Wolfpack. So, and basically, I'm hoping that 2023 is our best year so far. I'm super excited about the content to come out. We're going to keep doing more Weeknight Chronicle episodes. Tyson, I know you're listening. You and I are going to be doing a lot of hockey stuff. I'd like to do at least a hockey episode with you a month and do some hockey off-season talk. I'm going to try to convince Kurt that we can do a pro wrestling episode again. And, of course, our collaborations with After 2 Beers podcast will be coming up. That's going to be super fun. But as always, I just want to take the time here to thank everybody for the podcast. I know we're not to the end of the year yet. We got 3 weeks left to go in 2022, but just the amount of attention that we've received since July. July we had 207 downloads, August 222, September 190, October 328, last month 107. And before that, we were averaging like maybe 40 to 50 downloads a month. So, anyways. So, all right, guys, that's going to wrap up a impromptu solo shot of the Weeknight Chronicles. No Kirk Kelly. It's 1 a.m. His big ass is sleeping. So for the absent Kirk Kelly, I am your host, Jared Atkins. This has been an awesome episode. Well, I guess I can't call it awesome. I guess that's up to you guys. Like us on Facebook, guys. Send us a message. Like us on Twitter. You can find us on Twitter at STSB_podcast. You can search Steel Toes and Scoreboards on Facebook. And as always, we appreciate your support. Spotify Wrapped for Podcasters showed that we've got some dedicated listeners who chime into us strictly through Spotify. So we appreciate that. We appreciate you wherever you get your podcasts. Stitcher, Podbay, Podchaser, Amazon Alexa, Audible, Player, iHeartRadio, of course through Podbean, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys, and we will talk to you guys next time.